We start with our Newsmaker segment and talk about a topic that has dominated local news coverage for the past several weeks. It deals with property tax assessments in Jackson County. Many residents were startled when notification arrived in the mail and they found their property values and perhaps ultimately their actual tax bill had skyrocketed. The complaints began and county officials extended the deadline for filing appeals. That initial filing period has now ended and the matter goes to the Jackson County Board of Equalization. One of the members is Preston Smith, who joins me now. Mr. Smith, thank you for coming in and welcome to Ruckus.
You bet, thank you.
How would you define the Board of Equalization? What is it? What does it do?
Well, it's created under state law, and the main objective is to try to equalize taxes, to be fair for everybody, and that was the goal.
How did you get on the board?
I was appointed by the Blue Springs School District 12 years ago.
All right, now that people have received their assessment, what does that mean?
Well, it means that if you're not appealing it, then you'll probably get a bill in December, and it may be very close to what you received the notice for, but it may not be. The levies are going to be set in October by the school districts and the cities.
So what people received in the mail is approximately the worth of their property, and now the various taxing jurisdictions, city hall, county government, school boards, library boards, they put forward their mill levy, and that determines what the tax would be based on the property value.
That's right. That worth is what the assessor says it is. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what it is.
Okay, so they get a bill or they get an assessed valuation in the mail and they don't agree with it. They think it's way too much, as thousands of people do. What is their recourse now? They filed for an appeal. What happens?
There are going to be some hearing officers they will see if they still don't get settled by the assessor. The assessor may call them and say, okay, let's work it out here on the phone, try to wheel and deal and arrive at a number. But if you can't arrive at a number, then you appear at a hearing officer. And if you can't agree there, then you come before the full Board of Equalization. And if you're in Blue Springs, that's where I'll see you.
All right, so there are people from throughout Jackson County who have filed appeals. Do they all go to the same Board of Equalization?
They do. I mean, you got 3 permanent members that'll hear all the cases, and then you got the other different jurisdictions that will be there to hear their cases.
All right, if someone finds they're going before the Board of Equalization, the board you sit on, what's your advice to them? What do they need to say? What do they need to bring with them?
Need to be very, very prepared, because the time that you've got to present could be quite short. I would recommend that you get an appraisal done, and also comparable sales data, and make sure that if they have any pictures, make sure they present all that too.
You've offered some advice about how to resolve all this and cut through the confusion. What are you suggesting?
Well, back in July, I talked about a flat rate across the board, countywide. And the State Tax Commission said, well, that's really not trying to get us closer to market values. A process that I'm going to be working through this weekend with a realtor is that we are going to actually look at market values by neighborhood and come up with neighborhood values across the county. And right now there are some neighborhoods that are about 40% over market value of the way they've been assessed. We try to lower those down and get that closer to market value that will hit all the criteria the State Tax Commission talks about. And then come to the Board of Equalization to get these cleared up by neighborhood.
So if someone comes then to the Board of Equalization and they don't like the result with the Jackson County Board, do they have any recourse then?
Absolutely. You can go appeal this to the State Tax Commission. They have hearing officers that come out here and make your case. And if you don't like there, eventually they have 3 people appointed by the governor, state tax commissioners. So there are a couple more hoops they can jump through, but each time it takes more time and it's a little more complicated.
Roughly how many appeals have been filed?
You know, the numbers I've seen are between 30 and 40,000, which, I mean, you got some duplication that's going to fit in there. Some people may have filed twice. But no, that's remarkable, because in an average year we might get 3,000 or 4,000.
Sounds like you're going to be a busy man for the next few months.
They're talking about 4 days a week, but like I said, I've not had any hearings yet for the last 2 months.
But one final quick question. If somebody comes in for an appeal, can they bring an attorney with them?
You can, yes, there's no problem with that.
Does that make any sense for people to do that?
I mean, you can have representation, but still the evidence is all that they're going to present. But actually, the homeowners are a little bit more credible. They make their own case stronger themselves.
Is there any sort of website or any place online that you would suggest people go for advice or for guidance?
What the Board of Equalization's got out there on the county's website is probably the best source of information. I mean, they tell you basically how to start. There are other folks, I mean, anybody can email me or call me, and I'll be glad to walk them through that too.
Well, I think I feel your pain, and I wish you well and good luck with this process. Thank you very much for coming in and talking with us.
Okay, thank you.
That is Jackson County Board of Equalization member Preston Smith. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus.